That last session had me really excited. Like, do you ever feel FOMO when you hear really good DEI work going on? I do. Welcome, everyone, to our session on collective action on tech equity. My name is Shijode Kadri, and I'm the Director of Tech Equity at Aspen Digital, a policy program of the Aspen Institute. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm so excited to give you a brief but informative intro into a new model for DEI, one that's holistic, collective, and sustainable. Let's quickly go back to the sunken place of our minds. It's early 2020. The pandemic is taking a strong hold. Our sourdough starters are starting to fail. And we were necessarily brought to our knees by witnessing the horrific murder of George Floyd. The senseless loss of his life spurred protests around the world, and hundreds of companies, organizations, and other key stakeholders on civil rights promised collective action on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Chief diversity officers were hired. Woefully under-resourced DEI work finally got budget. Studies and papers were going to be published. Data collected. Over $50 billion was pledged by corporations to ensure that we would never bear witness to such an injustice again. And 2.5 years later, we have many billions unspent, reports that are pulled back, initiatives that were canceled. DEI leaders who were brought on quickly in 2020 are now burnt out from a lack of support and being gaslit by the very organizations that hired them. To be fair, and as we've just heard, many companies have begun to make critical shifts to meaningfully incorporate DEI as a framework for the entire business, and they're starting to reap the rewards of those efforts. But that doesn't diminish the reality of the collective failure of the industry to actualize the promised change. And real talk, if you're a member of a historically marginalized group, you might feel let down again. But I am here to rekindle that fire that inspired so many of us in 2020 and bring you into a new initiative meant to capitalize on the innovation and opportunity that DEI and tech in particular presents to be a paradigm for the industry and beyond. As we've heard in 2021, a team of phenomenal industry leaders, academics, and non-industry stakeholders published the Action to Catalyze Tech Report, or ACT. This seminal report not only provided us actionable recommendations, case studies, and clear business strategies, even more so, ACT called upon us to create real accountability in tech. And hence, the Tech Accountability Coalition was born. Launched in March 2022 and incubated by Aspen Digital and BSR, this new organization will translate inspiration into action, operationalizing the framework for DEI for businesses. How is this coalition any different, you might be asking? See, DEI is basic civil rights and inclusion work. It's not proprietary, which means we should be working together. Our collective action will be both the carrot and the stick to meaningfully create change across multiple vertices within a company and ideally the sector. Encapsulated in a robust accountability framework, we'll create industry-wide benchmarks, use contemporary data analytics methods to align on goal setting, and codify best practices for DEI work, pushing each other to be better than ever. Working together, we want to make it easier for companies to assess where they are on the path to true equity and inclusion, what potential they have to go even further, and then provide real support to help you get there. And look, don't worry, we have real people resources behind this work at Aspen Digital. Shreya and I are just half of the dynamic team leading this coalition work. And here's a preview of what's to come. So, as part of optimizing this blueprint for action, we'll be sharing definitions on all things DEI, from race and ethnicity to leadership levels. So no more Googling and flipping through multiple indices and diversity annual reports to figure out how to define key terms. And then there'll be the creation of a data escrow where member companies will share all of their demographic data, all of it, and allow us to have cross-company analysis, bringing trends around DEI into sharper relief, and more importantly, insights into what we need to do about them. And working groups on various topics like legislation and policy, supplier diversity, content and product inclusion, and talent acquisition, where you can actually ask questions and get answers, share resources, and learn from each other about how to build a more equitable future. Did I mention that we have a robust demographic survey that you have access to if you join the coalition? Look, let me be clear. We're not just collecting more DEI data. We are changing how companies collect DEI data, informing the philosophy behind this work, and bringing folks together to share that information so it will change the game for all of us. To shed some more light on this incredible coalition, I'm turning over to my colleague, Shreya Singh Hernandez.
Thank you so much, Shiju. As Shiju mentioned, my name is Shreya Singh Hernandez. I use she, her pronouns, and earlier this year, I was hired as the first dedicated full-time staff member at the Tech Accountability Coalition at Aspen Digital, a policy program of the Aspen Institute. I'm excited to talk to you about data equity and how we are acknowledging the status quo and setting shared industry standards through the Tech Accountability Coalition's accountability framework. But before I do that, here's how we got here. Our framework does not come from or operate in a vacuum. Over this past year, we brought together 125 tech industry experts, community advocates, activists, and academics to inform our work. We held individual one-on-ones with C-suite staff at tech companies and leaders of community groups. We know there's so many community advocacy organizations you are working with and creating indices and matrices and standards, and so we've met with their teams across identities and interests to ensure that our work is the greatest common denominator of industry standards to reduce overlap and duplication of efforts. We also took a look at over 30 published diversity annual reports to get a sense of the status quo, identify gaps, and create a manageable first step of our accountability framework towards data and tech equity. We've been working closely with your teams and internal experts, from your chief diversity officers to people analytics, from legal to recruiting, from data to policy folks, to ensure that this work is industry informed, interconnected, and aligns with internal goals and processes. From what we've found, a common thread through this work is that the public has a very high BS meter when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion reputational laundering. We can tell when vanity metrics create an experience of inauthenticity. Employees are tired of answering survey after engagement survey without seeing real actions as a result. Have you and your employees felt this fatigue, this lack of trust? These emojis describe perfectly what we're trying to measure and solve. Across the industry are diversity initiatives that companies have invested in, making a real, meaningful change in all rungs of leadership. And if not, where are the gaps and barriers? Is it a company-specific thing, or is it something that the industry can work on as a whole? For this reason, we are providing tools to ensure that we get a clear, apples-to-apples picture to diagnose the industry as a whole and give DEI leaders in companies the rigorous and validated data they need to make the decisions for continued commitment and accountability internally and across the industry. Data is increasingly driving every exponential decision that impacts the lived experiences of our workers and our users. Without an element of data equity, these decisions cannot innovate into the future we see for ourselves. Dirty DEI data not only undermines belonging, but also the expertise of tech leader and poses an increasing threat to the bottom lines across businesses. For example, we know that not providing a multi-select option for race invisibilizes more than 33 million Americans, according to the 2020 census. A failure to disaggregate data bars us from having an accurate analysis of the experience of communities beyond monolithic views of race and ethnicity. Our recommendations in the framework create industry-wide standards to ensure that we are evolving to catch up with reality. Central to our work at the Coalition is getting an element of data equity to ensure accurate and transparent look at where diversity, equity, inclusion is actually is across the industry. Data equity means to us that diverse communities are represented authentically in data, that diverse groups have ownership over the data, meaning it doesn't just go into a void, but that communities who provide information about themselves are able to see the results in an aggregate, anonymized, and non-attributed way. And finally, that this information becomes power, that communities are able to self-determine their futures, and that we are able to go from supporting pathways of diverse talent into the workforce, creating spaces of belonging and influence, and expanding into product equity, inclusion, and impact. We hope that you decide to become a part of this transformation and this paradigm shift in diversity, equity, and inclusion to innovate our future together.
So I know you're like, data equity sounds good. This coalition sounds super interesting. And now there's one question that all of you are asking yourselves. What about us? Where do we fit in? Just like Shreya was saying, we hope that you join us, and there are 3 ways that you can act now. First, sign up to become an Act Report signatory by heading to the link on your screen. Second, we're looking for those companies who are really ready to roll up their sleeves and lead on this work, guiding it for all of us, and are ready to become a founding coalition member. You'd be a first amongst equals, but everyone likes to be first, right? And finally, remember that accountability framework that we've been talking about? We really want your feedback on it. So you have from now until December 1st to review and share that feedback with us. Look, there are amazing companies doing awesome work, and some of us who don't have the same resources to do the work we really want to. So let's band together because we win together. The more companies and leaders we have doing this, the further we can go and the more sustainable change we can create. So if you want to learn more about anything we've talked about, hit us up on email, find us on Twitter or on LinkedIn. And if you can't remember anything else, just look for Shreya and I on LinkedIn, and we promise to take it from there. Thank you so much.